Hi, my name is Erin Stewart, and in today's AI UX Teardown, we're going to look at Replit, a AI prototyping tool. I've been hearing this one increasingly more often. Our team regularly uses Lovable. We've experimented with V0 and Cursor, Figma Make, but this one caught my attention because I've been hearing it more and more often. And I believe they position themselves a little bit more towards the friendly for startups and enterprise alike. So maybe getting some of the security and overall like ecosystem integrations right. So curious to jump in and check it out. I'm going to scroll just down their homepage briefly, but we're going to jump in and start building with it pretty quickly. So it's talking about trusted by founders and Fortune 500s. I think that's a really smart positioning, although at some point you can't be everything to everyone. So I'm curious if they're really trying to be an enterprise player or what their goal is there. A little bit of a how-to, but obviously at this point, we really just want to jump in and see how easy it is to use. Appreciate that their emphasis on like security and safety. I think that's good. And then they've got some testimonials. I've mentioned this in some of my other videos recently, but I think these like static testimonials are starting to not really have a huge impact and really in favor of video case studies, catching more attention, more storytelling. So would love to see them do that. But you see things like, President of Microsoft Americas and talking about the opportunity it creates for business teams across the enterprise to innovate and solve problems without the typical barriers. I think that's really interesting because while there are opportunities, of course, to create like net new products that you're then going to sell, probably a lot of the opportunities in some of these AI coding tools, workflow automation tools, etc. We'll look at some AI workflow automation tools in upcoming videos as well. But the idea that you can solve operational workflow automation or create internal business applications that really are just for your team or your organization to solve a problem. What those need to look like and how they interact with like existing data sets is different than if you're trying to build something that's going to have a wide customer base. So I think there's a lot of really interesting use cases for tools like that, and where I think we're all still kind of evolving our thinking of where they fit into our ecosystem. So let's scroll back up. And one thing I like that they do here, so it's really clear where to get started. And there's a lot kind of going on just in this window. So the first is it's going to suggest something I can build, a business tool for HR managers to track sales pipeline, forecast revenue, integrate with popular CRM systems. And I'm noticing that these have hover. So if I click in, okay, so I say I can do a type of project. So I can kind of toggle through these, which is fun. And then same thing, who it's for. And so on. So let's like shuffle these a few times. So a game for families with young children, an app for outdoor adventures, help track meditation schedules and timely reminders, a data tool for analysts. So they're starting to like spark your ideas here. Let's see, pick managers. Okay, so let's pick this one, an app for language learners to find local classes and workshops, something directory or marketplace-esque, real-time availability, helpful reminders and notifications being some of the external interactions you're going to get, pushing information to somebody. So I'm going to hit start building, and we're going to focus mostly on their onboarding flow, a little bit less on the output of like the prototype itself. If we were going to do that, I'd want to come up with my own sort of business case, product vision, et cetera, and we'd bring some artifacts into the mix. So maybe we'll save that for a separate video. But here, so the home page did a good job of enticing me to just like jump in and try it. Here, I'm seeing an option to create my account with Google or a couple other options. They do have SSO, and then here they're doing kind of like the idea of teasing what to expect. I think they could do a lot better on this right-hand side. I also, at this point, probably would have expected like on the homepage to just have it pop like the little window in the corner that's like continue as me hooking into Google. So there's a couple of things that there's nothing broken with this, but there's a couple of versions of it that could be enhanced. I just connected with one of my Google accounts. I see it's thinking. Let's see what it's loading. So okay, so here I've gone through, I obviously engaged with a prompt that was on their homepage. They had me sign up. Now I'm dropped back into honestly kind of an underwhelming chat interface. It feels very like LLM-esque, so no real issues there. But I've got a prompt here that is similar to or if not exactly, the prompt that we came in through on the homepage. I see it's thinking. And I think one thing that's a little tough about this sort of onboarding flow is, yes, it's great to drop me right in and let me start experimenting with it, but I'm kind of stuck in this like holding pattern where, this isn't really why I would buy the product. It's just how I'm demoing or testing it. And I'm kind of sitting here like waiting for it to think and work. And so I almost want to engage with something else, or have it kind of like step me through something that's a little bit more interactive, where I'm like learning and kind of absorbing the mindset it wants me to have before I go build that like real product that I'm maybe testing the platform for. But nonetheless, here's what happened. So I'll help you create the app, so on, searching integrations for locations, map, geolocation. Okay, so it identified that local piece is hinting that it probably has a map UI, which is interesting. It's going to do a modern web app, and I'll include the following features. So here it's basically saying, hey, based on what you ask, I think these are the features, and then it's giving me a chance to edit that. What I might have preferred, what would you like to change about the plan? So now I'm talking to the plan. So really what I would rather see happen is I'd want it to coach me through what inputs does it need, because I think the idea of this, like, that I'm going to build a meaningful product, or even if it's just a demo experiment with this one, 2-sentence prompt, is not probably realistic. And then, so let's see, it's got these features, but now I'm being asked, like, think about what do I actually want? But let's just go ahead and like back out. So here I would basically have probably brought in more information to begin with. So it probably wouldn't be in this loop. But this, I could see a lot of people just from an onboarding optimization abandoning at this point. So if I had been stepped through a thing where I'm like, yes, it's in the chat interface, but it's like, okay, great, you want to do this. Tell me a little bit more about the features you assume. Great. Here's some other features I would recommend. Would you like to add any of those? And like kind of where it's like, let's get started, but it's from a point of view of me having like free flow thinking with it. Or I brought in a bunch of really like well thought out product strategy documentation. What does that look like? So at this point, I'm curious, like, I can obviously attach a file, but that's just opening. Here I've got AI tools, but I'm not kind of getting like exposed to what does it look like to come in and bring like a set of knowledge or strategy documentation and fold it into this. So just like honestly raises a lot of questions for me. What would the real workflow look like for my team perhaps? But I'm going to go back, and it says, okay, so I can get notified when my app is ready. So that's like the idea of, I can like go to sleep and wake up and have an app. Or it says build the entire app, 20 minutes, start with the design. Best if you want to see a design prototype first, then iterate on visuals or features. So I do like this idea of like working on design to say basically like, I want you to run it, but I'm probably going to have edits to it before we go build the whole app. Let's do that iteration. Same thing though here, where I would really want it to have a point of view of how it's coaching me through this experience. I think there's a big opportunity in this space, something I've been thinking a lot about, of like, how do you fold in that product discovery and strategy coaching into some of these tools in a way that would really empower teams to do more with very lean teams. But let's go through, since this start with the design feels novel, let's see what happens. So while I'm waiting here, it's kind of running me through a little bit of context, but there is definitely like a bit of a missed opportunity for education and guidance here. But I'm curious to see what it produces. I'm also, as I'm looking around the UI, I'm noticing here I have an upgrade CTA. I can go compare plans. So I'm on the free option. I can create 10 public apps and do basic AI features. Paying $25 a month gets me access to this agent, which I assume is what I'm interacting with, but that raises some question of like, what's the difference? And I'm not getting exposed to that in the demo experience, right? So one of the things I'm noticing with AI tools is like they have some kind of model like this where like they're being generous with a free tier, capitalizing on one, driving user engagement and like loyalty, because then you can convert that to paid easily. If somebody's loyal to you, like that goes really far. But I'm also seeing people like go from where the free experience is serving a lot of people's needs and they don't even realize they're not paying for it. I've had that happen myself. And, you know, it's like we need to not forget that there's like a conversion funnel that needs to happen in terms of monetizing it and driving to profitability even. Let's jump back. Okay, so here now I kind of have this. Okay, let me X out of this. So, interesting. So I went and looked at pricing. I came back and it looks like, so I thought I said I wanted to have it create designs first. Okay, and it seems like it's doing that, and I'm seeing it do where it's creating images. Now it's thinking through setting up the title, colors, design guidelines. Now it's helping me create the core components. But it's pretty slow, honestly. So like obviously I would be multitasking if I was doing this. I also see, okay, so right now I'm seeing a card UI, and this card UI is fine, right? So it's like title, instructor, ratings, reviews, price point in the top right, some tagging for it, location, distance relative to where I am, time, availability, or number of spots available next session, book now. So like that's pretty good for a card, but it's just a card, right? I'm really trying to look for the full vision of the experience. Okay, I see it. It's interesting the way it kind of like slides me through what it's working on. Filters, okay. And you know, one thing that strikes me about this is it's creating some of the building blocks, and it literally says applications building blocks up at this top. And it says it's creating the full interactive version, so I still like am a little confused as to, I thought I was asking for just the designs, and what I would have expected to see in that, if I'm being honest, is like I want to see the skeleton of something, right? I want to see the layout, some information architecture. Yes, the component building blocks like are part of the puzzle, but that's probably not what I would look at first. So it's a little bit counterintuitive to what I would think of as like your typical product discovery design, refinement or validate and then build process. So I think we want to be mindful of that. If you're a product leader for one of these AI prototyping tools, really thinking about how you would fit into somebody's product team workflows is, I think, going to go a long way in terms of winning the like larger teams or like the enterprise market. I think when you're creating a tool that's really for like the solo entrepreneur or early stage startup founder, the benchmark for that is different. But yeah, so like this is kind of like scrolling me through these different components, none of which are really like the big aha thing I'm looking for. And I'm not even, like I said, sure that it's doing the design for me, because it feels like it's building the whole thing, mostly out of like I'm seeing the code files and stuff being referenced in this sidebar. So we'll wait here and we'll come back once it is complete. Okay, it's interesting to see that they have these modes. So build versus plan, it's defaulting to build, but it didn't differentiate like build versus design. I wonder if that's a new feature. It just feels like it's a little disconnected from what they're actually doing. History. Okay, and then like obviously at this point, installer, get notified, I'm curious. Okay, so I'm gonna try Okay, so scanning that goes to a landing page where I can download from the App Store. That's fine, but this is where, like, I assume they're trying to get me to engage with the platform on mobile, but I don't really want their native app. I just want, like, I don't know, even just call me old school, but, you know, an email that tells me it's ready. So I would, you know, at this point have gone and like answered emails or prepped for my next meeting or whatever it is while I'm waiting. But I kind of have low confidence that this is going to spit out something that I'm not excited about. So like one of the risks from an onboarding optimization standpoint is based on how I just, you know, have been kind of standing here waiting for it to do something. But I was really trying to, you know, I picked one of their selected prompts, but my intent for going through fake content was to learn about the platform. And I think we're missing the mark on that a little bit, where it's like, okay, I see what it's doing, but it raised a bunch of questions. You know, my trust in it dropped at a few different points where it's like, well, I thought I asked for this and this is what I'm getting. It just feels a little weird. But let's look at what they built so far. So again, I feel like this is the coded version of it, not designs, because it's even prompting me to publish. So that was a little weird to get that choice and then never really feel like that was the flow I got put into. That again reduced my trust or confidence in the tool in general. I see things like poor responsive design. And so like we would have to go in and like, I guess, prompt to edits, and like at what point is it faster for me to just like edit the code or the design file myself to get it exactly what I want. The filters feel like they're taking up too much space on the page. Yeah, but let's see. Well, and like if I do interact with it, I'm trying to type in Spanish, but I don't see like that, like bad usability or interaction. Just kind of like some of the basics are broken. And it looks like that was maybe trying to autocomplete but not working. I'm trying to type in Nashville. Oh my goodness. TN search. Okay, so like it took that value. Obviously these are all fake. Can I click into one of these? No. Yeah. So like it's also, it was implying, okay, maybe it wasn't going to create a map interface. It was just going to do like the geolocation where relative to my location. But yeah, the whole thing just feels like it's not like totally actually working. And I probably wouldn't, let's say I had come up with a prompt that's something I actually wanted to build for my team, I have a low degree of confidence that if I had gone through the demo or like sort of like new user onboarding experience with like an idea ready to go, that this would beat my experience with like Lovable even, for example. So yeah, this is definitely one I'll check out more because I am hearing it more often and I'm probably missing some of like the nuances of what it can do versus others. But just from an onboarding optimization experience, there's a bunch of things that I saw. Okay, so and even here it's like keep iterating on design or build the functionality. So I would basically keep iterating on design. Let's go through and be like, update the hero form inputs to have an entered text state that is the default text color, dark gray, used elsewhere. It currently shows up as white and is not readable. Also, update the cards display in a vertically stacked list view with one card per row. So let's just see if we can just change the layout of the cards altogether, and then also make that one fix. So those are pretty straightforward edits. I didn't write like a super robust prompt for it by any means, so I'm curious if it just does it, if it asks me follow-up questions, and like kind of what it steps through. Interesting that it's showing like time spent. Okay, so it's looking at different things. Okay, so this is good. Okay, love that it fixed that. But again, that's a pretty simple edit, and like everything I spent time doing probably would have been faster to do it manually. Also, yeah, that looks pretty good too. So I am excited about the way that it was able to iterate. Again, I didn't write a very robust prompt for that feedback, and those are pretty quick wins. So like, let's say, obviously I would spend more time interacting with this. But let's say I'm ready to build functionality. We'll just try to take it all the way through. I'm curious if it invites me to do anything else. But the build functionality and like the way I'm already seeing published, I think created some confusion. Obviously, I understand like this isn't okay, so now this is working. It looks like, I don't know if it just added that or what, but so like we'd have edits there, but I'd maybe have prompted to add like a map view of this UI or something like that. But yeah, not bad. Okay, so one of these works, but yeah, that's fine. Okay, so it's kind of walking me through. It's creating a task list. It's doing the things. Building out my database. Another thing I would dig into further is, again, bringing in my own prompts to do it would be like, how well can it, if you have a user flow that has, say, like 10 steps in it, and you want to add a step between step like 5 and 6, that's essentially a screen or some form inputs or something. Like, can it navigate something of that complexity versus like, I think a lot of these tools, their sweet spot are like kind of single page experiences, maybe with some like basic functionality of submitting content, collecting payment, all those things. But as you get into something that's a more complex like workflow, or where the person would be interacting with the product in like a non-linear direction, like you can see things where like the way that you have to iterate on that or prompt to iterate on it ends up getting a little bit muddy, or it'll start running into like loops where it's getting stuck on certain things. So, and like at that point, you would want to pull it back into your team's workflow, assuming you have a product or engineering team. But yeah, so I do see some potential here. It kind of lost me on its first pass, especially for a prompt that they promoted on their homepage. It lost me a little bit on that like design to build workflow. For how long it took. And it was obviously building the front end, but I guess not the back end, the full like architecture for it. So like I do get that. That would be something that you have to go through their learning curve on. And then the way it made those two pretty straightforward edits, but did that really fast. I was pleased with that. And then I am watching it kind of build everything out. So I'm like getting a little bit more used to it. I wouldn't necessarily discard this one, but I would definitely have to test it with like some real product, requirements, and see if it can build something that's, again, not a prompt they handed me and is a little more complex, to see where its limits are. As this is running, I am noticing it's like stop agent. I see this progress bar, so agent usage. So again, I'm testing something that's like fake content, but it's already telling me I have 54% usage. So it's basically trying to push me from free to this $25 a month. That's not a huge issue to me, but one thing I would mention in flows like this is if you're going to quickly push somebody to convert to paid, at $25 a month, a lot of business owners or purchasers in general will drop $25 a month. They're going to use it long enough to basically run one test on it. And then you're probably going to see a fair amount of, if people are diligent about canceling subscriptions, which I think we've all gotten better at, like remembering that you have to do that, setting a reminder in your calendar, whatever it is. But like for me, you might very well see me spend $25 to test this month and basically cancel it a week or two from now once I decide, I'm already paying for other tools, and so I don't want to replace something else with this yet. And then it's like, do I ever remember to come back? Am I getting interesting, like not just like marketing emails, but like valuable resource content that makes me a better like vibe coder or whatever it is? Like, how do you hook me back in if I was somebody who went from free to paid and then canceled and decided not to keep using it? That's probably still somebody that could be a long-term customer, but as you roll out new features, as you roll out new offerings, as you provide more like help and guidance and training on the approach for how to use these tools in a meaningful way for your own business, I think there's a lot you can do there as an AI tool in general. So it looks like it's still working through. I can kind of see that I've come back in. I can see like the trail of stuff. That's fine. But I'm going to pause here for the sake of this video. And I think we would suffice it to say, like, basically my real workflow as a user would be to say, okay, interesting enough tool. I'm going to go create, come up with a real use case for it, run it through that. And at that point, you might see me go through and test the whole workflow all the way through publishing and launching something. But I feel like they're probably currently, if I had to guess, seeing a lot of drop off after this point-ish, where somebody is like, oh, okay, that's cool. I've seen this tool. Now I can say that I know what people are talking about. Maybe I already have a bias towards another existing one. But it's not really doing a great job of pulling me in to create my own product yet. So I could imagine this being one where like the average person that hears about it, tests it, like they might just forget about it before they come back with their own concept to test, which I think is a big hurdle to overcome, but something to be aware of and think about in terms of how you are re-engaging people that have signed up for that free trial.